The Cowboys of Argentina by Robert R. O'Brien. He was a rugged loner. He spent all day in the saddle, hands on the reins of his horse, to keep an eye over a herd of cattle. Now he has movies made about him, and he's a folk hero. He's not a cowboy from the Old West in the United States. He's a gaucho from Argentina. In many ways, the gaucho was like a cowboy of the Old West, but in some ways, he was very different. The cowboy had wide hats. Gauchos wore smaller ones with a flat top. Cowboys wore pants like our jeans. Gauchos wore long, wide pants. In cold weather, cowboys wore warm shirts and coats. Gauchos wore ponchos. Ponchos are warm blankets with a hole in the middle for your head. Gauchos carried long silver daggers. Gauchos used them to skin cattle and cut up the meat. They also needed the daggers for protection. Many gauchos traveled the pampas. These are wide, flat plains of Argentina. They chased wild horses and cattle. Instead of a lasso, gauchos used a boladora. This is also called a bola. It is made from 2 or more stones tied with leather strings. They twirled the bola and threw it. The strings would wind around an animal's leg. When the gauchos found wild cows and calves, they used them for their leather hides. The meat was left for wild dogs to eat. In those days, wild cattle were not used for food. When they found wild horses, the gaucho tried to catch them. A gaucho would jump on the horse's back. The horse would run off. It would try to throw the gaucho, but later it got used to having a rider. It would learn to accept a saddle and reins. This was a very hard way of getting horses. Gauchos who survived became some of the best riders in the world. The gauchos of old spent long hours in the saddle. They did not build fences. They did not brand their horses. They did not keep the horses in a corral. They worked outside in the very cold weather. They had no bunkhouse. Home was a hut made from the skins of cows. They used their saddles as pillows and their ponchos as blankets. They ate meat at every meal. Sometimes it was cooked, sometimes it was not cooked at all. Sometimes it was dried and salted. One thing that the gauchos liked to drink was mate. Mate is a kind of tea. The gauchos would sit around the fire at night. They would tell stories and poems, and they would pass the mate around. Gauchos helped Argentina fight for independence. They were feared by their enemies, yet the gauchos were also known for being kind. They would share what they had with others. In fact, today in Argentina, if you help somebody, it's called a gauchuda. This means it is something a gaucho might do. The days of cowboys in the Old West only lasted from the 1860s to the 1890s. The gaucho's way of life lasted for many years. Gauchos rode the pampas from the late 1600s until the late 1800s. Then came the inventions of barbed wire and trains. The old ways of the gauchos and cowboys changed. Barbed wire meant more fences and less open space. A herd of cattle inside a fence does not need as many people to watch it. Fewer horsemen were needed. Trains could bring the cattle right to the corrals in port cities. That way cattle didn't have to walk a long way. They stayed fatter. Fewer gauchos were needed to herd cattle across the pampas. The few gauchos left today lead a much different way of life. They no longer chase wild cows. The working gauchos of today live on ranches. They might spend their days taking care of calves. Today, some people dress up like gauchos to honor the gauchos' work. They sit on horses with bridles and reins like those of the gauchos. The gaucho is a folk hero in Argentina, but people still like to celebrate the way he lived and worked.